Greetings, and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the pub where the positive people on the internet congregate to talk about video games, drinks, or anything else that catches our fancy. I'm your host and community manager, David Lloyd, and the pub is reopened again for 2021 with a new episode and some new ways to interact with the community. But first, let me introduce the man who's as timeless as the game he features in his video series, NWR Reviews editor, Jordan Rudick.
So I was very happy today because I'm slowly getting all these packages and things I ordered over the holidays. They're slowly coming in, as we get further into the new year here. And I got one thing I ordered, actually for myself, is Nintendo's been putting up a bunch of like merchandise related to Super Mario's 35th anniversary. So they've got all these cool shirts that come in like NES boxes. I haven't got one of those yet, but I'm still tempted to. But I got a nice kind of white sweater that says Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary. It's pretty plain, but it's so comfortable. It's got a Mario kind of what would you call it, like a patch on the arm, just the pipe before the number 35 and the anniversary title. It's nice, it's clean, it feels good. I haven't had like a nice kind of white sweater in a long time, so I was very happy to get this. And I guess the problem also with having a white sweater is that, and two kids in the house, is that I know it's going to get dirty and I'm going to be devastated by that, but I'm just enjoying today because today it's like the cleanest it's ever going to be. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's right. So you only get to wear a shirt once, brand new. So
yeah, exactly. So you like the feeling, and so I guess what I was going to say is that if anyone has kind of seen any of that merchandise on Nintendo's online store, like I feel like this is pretty high quality. Like it's not cheap. I think it was $65 Canadian, and then like $8 shipping or something like that. But it's really comfortable. And if they do like a Zelda one for this year, like a Zelda 35th, kind of a clean, kind of plainer sweatshirt with maybe just a little bit of font on it, I'm probably gonna pick up one of those as well because this is high quality stuff. And now my wife wants to get they have Animal Crossing stuff. My wife wants to get one too. So we might be spending a lot of money on the Nintendo shop this year.
Dangerous territories.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm curious. I know before the break we had talked about you were going to try to track down a PS5 Pulse headset. Now did you get anywhere on that?
I did get one eventually. So I ordered it from Costco. I had a coupon for like $50 if you spend $250. So I got the Pulse 3D headset. I got an extra controller, which I haven't even opened yet, and I got Spider-Man as well. So I'd asked for Spider-Man for Christmas, but I got a couple of other things. So I ended up just keeping the Spider-Man. It was kind of funny. Like I expected to get Spider-Man and then return the one I bought from Costco, maybe. But so I didn't get it, so I just kept that one from Costco. So it actually worked out really nicely. So I do have the Pulse headset, and it's really good. I don't think it's very good for someone with a larger head. I think I have a bigger head. So it's because it's not adjustable. At least I don't think you can adjust it. So yeah, it is weird. So it's a little bit tight, although I do love the kind of 3D sound. Like when you're playing a game and you're turning your character around and you're hearing sounds from different directions, it's really neat. Like it does feel very immersive, but I just can't wear it necessarily for longer stretches, or I need to kind of position it on my head in a certain way so it's a little bit more comfortable. So I think the sound quality is good, but the comfort is a little bit leaving something to be desired.
That's good, interesting. I'll have to think about that then. That's one of the things that I find hardest about finding a decent headset is the comfort.
Yeah.
I always find that they're like squishing my ears or they're just like they build up too much heat or something. Like just trying to find a good pair is difficult. So
yeah, these ones definitely feel a little bit warmer because it's rubber on the cups. There's no like fabric material, so you will feel a little bit overheating if you're wearing it for a longer time. So yeah, I wish the build of it was a little bit more focused on the comfort aspect, but again, what you're hearing from it is quite good. And I haven't had a chance to try out the microphone yet, so I can't speak to that yet.
Okay, so you haven't been shouting at teenagers on Fortnite or anything like that?
No,
cursing them out.
I've been playing so many single player games. Like I've just been kind of dabbling in single player, chasing trophies and stuff. And we're gonna be talking about a lot of good single player games later this month. Cyberpunk, Miles Morales. Next week, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So many good games on PS5, even just right out of the gate here, but all of them single player. So I think there's one game coming to PS Plus in the next month or two. It's some kind of car game in the vein of Not quite. What's the soccer game? The car soccer game? No, the car soccer game.
Oh, Rocket League.
I think it's in the vein of like Rocket League or Twisted Metal. I think it might be called Destruction Derby or Destruction Derby All Stars or something.
Oh, yes.
So I think I do want to try that because it's going to be free for PS Plus members, and I think that will have multiplayer to it. So I am interested to try that. But that'll probably be my first time doing any kind of talking with that microphone, I would guess.
Okay, yeah, that'll be interesting. I've set because there's also the microphone in the controller itself,
That's
which
right,
I've actually like set the default setting to have it off, even though it's got like a button to push. Because I'm always I'm the old guy who is like, what's this thing recording?
Yes, yes, of
So
course.
I'm always make sure to have it off.
I'm always surprised to hear sound coming out of the controller, right? Like if talking or some kind of sound effect. Like especially when I'm wearing the headphones, I think sometimes you can get the sound of the controller as well. And I'm like, I hear something muffled. I'm like, is that my phone? Am I getting a text or something like that? And so it's just funny to hear so many different sounds coming out of the controller. That is something that always catches me off guard.
Yeah, still impressed with that controller. Every new game I get, it's always something new. So it's very impressed with it so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I guess, before we get into the drink discussion, we just wanted to talk a little bit about, it's 2021, a new year, and we've got a few different ways to interact with the community now. So we just want to make sure that everyone listening to the podcast is aware of the different ways that they can interact or engage with us. And I know we talk a lot about the Discord channel and the YouTube and that sort of thing, but we just want to go through them one more time just so that everyone knows they exist. And we also have a couple new ones on tap now. So like first of all, obviously we'll still have our weekly podcast going. So we will be continuing on with our weekly deep dives into RPGs and different themes, what we're playing and that sort of thing. Like you had mentioned, Jordan, we're going to be featuring a few first player games this month. So next week will be kind of a breakdown of the games we've been playing over the holidays, but then after that we'll have a deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077, Miles Morales. Then we got after that a retro look back with Star Ocean First Departure. And for anyone who's, I think it might still be on sale as of now, or might have just ended, but if anyone out there was wanting to play Star Ocean but finds playing with friends helps to motivate them to move them along, you can make sure that you can join us on our next service, which is Discord. There is a specific channel room for Star Ocean specifically. So we've been kind of discussing the game as we go along, and we haven't really had to help each other very much so far because I think most of us are pretty early on still in. I'm only about 3 hours or so in. But yeah, we've got a wonderful community on Discord, very positive folks. It's such a breath of fresh air from like something like Twitter or Facebook, because there's no discourse. It's just a fun conversations about video games, PC setups, anything. It's just a great way for friends to discuss things and discuss different topics, and a lot of Legend of Heroes talks, obviously, but also helping out
10
with
Discord channels just for Legend of Heroes games.
Yes, that's right. there will be soon enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a very positive place. Like it's I'm really enjoying being in there. So you usually find a few people in there discussing something. So everyone's welcome to join us there. There'll be a link to the Discord. Well, there's always a link to the Discord in our notes, so you can head out there. Obviously, we still got our website going. Right now, it's been mostly reviews of games, and it also has the listings of our podcast episodes and that sort of thing. But I'm hoping one of my New Year's themes that I want to go with is trying to create some more written articles for the website. So hopefully, I'll be able to start getting into those. I've got a few ideas in the hopper that I've been working on. So hopefully we'll be able to start posting those in the next few weeks. We still have our YouTube channel, which we'd like to renew our focus on in 2021 with some more videos. I know Jordan and I are really enjoying our PlayStation 5, and they have a very handy capture feature on there. So hopefully we'll be able to get that. And I know Jordan has a great capture card, so hopefully we can get some PlayStation 5 games on the YouTube channel and continue on with like Switch RPGs and that sort of thing. But the new one that I've just introduced is a Flipboard curated magazine. So anyone who's using Flipboard, it's basically just a way of having different sources of news and articles in kind of like one curated timeline basically. And I know my morning routine every day is, wake up, have breakfast, have a coffee, and then kind of scroll through the news. And one of the big things for me is I always feel like I'm going through like so many different websites, and I only seem to find like a few articles that interested me. And I know in the last couple weeks, I was kind of sitting around thinking like, why can't someone just find the things that I'm interested in so I don't have to search for them all the time? And it kind of was an aha moment for me of like, okay, well, if I feel this way, there must be other people that feel this way. So if I'm already searching these websites to read on stuff, I'm going to take the things that interest me and stick them in this timeline, Flipboard timeline. So if you head over to our website, if you click on the Flipboard link there, that'll take you to a curated web magazine. So basically, it's kind of like filtering out the interesting news. So it's not, obviously, there's going to be a lean towards RPG news, but not necessarily all of it because, I'm interested in anything video game related. So I'm always looking for some interesting stuff with that. And it's probably from sources that people usually, that listen to the podcast are probably reading anyway. So it's like from Gmatsu, RPG Fan, Nintendo World Report, these sort of sources. So if you're looking for a filtered way of just, finding relevant articles that are interesting reads, that sort of thing, you can head on over to there. And then the last thing I'll highlight before we get to the drinks is our Patreon. So obviously the Patreon pays for everything that I just mentioned, and it's keeps the lights on and hopefully will help us grow. So it's patreon.com/thethirsty-mage. We still have our tiers, and I'll be looking for different ways to add more benefits to those tiers. So anyone want to head over and see the benefits that are available, it's there, and it help grow this whole network of things that we're working on right now. So
I think the cool thing is that, however you like to consume your content or your video game, your news, your reviews, your features, your just being part of the conversation, like you have that option here, right? You've got the podcast if you want to listen to things, if you want to be part of conversations, you've got the Discord if you want to talk with people, the website if you're more into reading, YouTube channel if you want to watch videos, Flipboard if you're looking for news specifically. And then Patreon, like if you really want to be a part of it, right? If you want to be part of building something with us. So, I think that's what, just hearing all these kind of different options for people being involved in the Thirsty Mage, that's what I get out of it, is that however you want to be a part of the community or connect with the content, you've got that option here. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Just giving people a whole bunch of different options, because we all like to do things differently, have our different tendencies. So have something, a little something for everyone. So.
For sure.
Yep. But now that we've gotten through all that, I think it's time to talk about the pairings. Jordan, what have you brought from us from the holiday break that has interested you?
Yeah. So you're talking about the drinks here, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm really making a concerted effort to not drink pop so much like that. It's not just a New Year's resolution. Like I was already trying to do that kind of leading up to the end of 2020, and so I've been doing that more. Feeling better. Clothes are fitting a little bit better. Like it's clearly not a myth to say that if you cut soda and pop out of your diet, you're probably gonna like look and feel better. And so I think that's been working. So I'm trying not to drink as much pop. It's been harder to cut out the coffee. So I am still I've tried not to do a daily coffee anymore. Like normally I would get up in the morning, I'd go to Tim's or Starbucks and get like a drip coffee, and then just add my own like soy creamer and some sugar or whatever. So I'm trying not to do that. So in two kind of ways of cutting out the coffee and then the pop. But I do still have a latte every couple days or so. So I had a vanilla latte today, decaf, soy, vanilla, extra hot. I'm trying to maybe see if I can tone down the lattes now too. Like normally I would get like, a gingerbread or cinnamon dolce or maybe something a little fancier. So I went to vanilla today, and I'm going to maybe try just a plain latte tomorrow or the next day. They're still getting me with these Starbucks promos for stars, and it's the worst because it's like, oh, come 4 days in a row and you get like tons of bonus points. I'm like, oh God, those are the worst ones where it's like incentivizes you to keep going every day. But I figure if I can, maybe make a smaller order or just order more smartly, then, some of those vices that I haven't been able to eliminate won't hurt me as much. So I had a vanilla latte this morning. It was very good. I went for a grande. Sorry, I did go for a venti today. I've been trying to do grandes as well. So I guess one of the maybe themes for me is scaling back a little bit in terms of size and sugar, and maybe trying some things that I haven't before, just to get some different flavors going on. So I'm hoping to maybe try a little bit more of the menu, and maybe just get some diversity of flavor rather than eating so much sugar and everything. And I know it's going against my persona on the show of always wanting the sugary drinks, and I still do, but still, obviously, if you can eliminate some of that stuff, it'll be better for me. So trying to scale back in 2021, at least in terms of the sugary drinks, will be one of my themes. I'll still try to bring new things to the podcast when I can, though.
Starbucks is basically the gotcha of the coffee world, I suppose, with their
They're constantly coming out with new stuff.
Check in daily.
They've got the promos, they've got the points, they've got the new drinks that are coming out. So I guess now that the holiday drinks are going to be phased out, they'll obviously bring out some New Year or springtime drinks as we get closer to the winter thaw, I suppose. So yeah, I guess I'm looking to just explore the menu a little bit more and see if I can find some options that are as satisfying, but maybe not as sugary.
Yeah, in November our espresso machine finally died after 10 years, and
oh no.
And so I tried to go and they're pretty expensive, so tried to go.
Were you trying to fix it yourself, or am I misremembering that?
I attempted to, and I ended up setting it on fire. So
oh my god.
That didn't go very well. I don't know if I crossed a wire or something, but I thought I had fixed it, plugged her in, turned it on, and smoke started flying out of it. So I'm like, okay, that's it for this guy. And
the nice thing is that's a very clear signal to stop and move on. Right. That it wasn't like maybe I can try something else again. No, this is a clear fail. It's time to move.
Yeah, exactly. So I tried to basically, because of the expense and with Christmas, is like, okay, it's not going to happen. And I talked to my wife about it, and we're like, well, why don't we just go, December, see how it goes, and if, by January, if we'll see where we stand on it. And I can tell you in the last few days, I've been basically like a heroin junkie who hasn't had his fix in about a week, so I'm been begging for this new espresso machine, and called up the place that we bought it from, and it's currently on the boat from Italy. I guess it's an import, but it hasn't come to the store yet. So I've been daily checking this store for when it comes into stock, and I'll be picking that up the moment they're back. But so yeah, I'll be increasing my coffee consumption in a few days or in a week or so. But the one constant is I'm still drinking beer, and I don't see that changing for 2020. And I don't know when
2021. We got to move on.
That's right, 2020. That's right.
Hey,
I'll be signing my checks 2020 for a while.
I know we've all done it. So.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the last episode or a couple episodes ago, but I was talking about discovering this beer from Smith Havens. Back then, it was the Keller beer, because they had done this interesting bottle conditioning to make it taste better. So I tried out another flavor. There is the Dunkelweizen. Pronounced that properly this time. I remember my W's. And this one is a dark wheat ale. So this is a beer that's brewed with more wheat than barley. So it's got a bit of a lighter taste to it, but then they darken it a bit, which is right up my alley. And this one was just I don't know if it was as good as the Keller beer, but I was still very happy with the flavor. And the bottle, again, this weird conditioning, they don't really get too specific on what they do, but it seems like they have like a little bit of brewer's yeast in each of the bottles, which gives it kind of that kind of like this flavor, like it's out of the tap, out of the keg, to kind of make it taste a little less like it's out of the bottle. So I appreciate that. I think it does a good job, and this is definitely they're 2 for 2 from the Smith Havens. So
I think I keep asking this. We're looking for more beer sponsorships, or has that one come in yet? Like, this is.
I think the USPS is holding that one up for me, or they're checking it at the border or something. Hasn't come in yet.
We
But
need to place bets whether your coffee maker is going to get here first or the
that's
beer
right.
that's been shipped to you. I don't know which one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But yeah, well, I'm looking forward to that one once it comes in, the New Holland Brewing. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be yeah, I don't know. I know I'm still waiting for a few packages in from our mail from
Yeah, same
family
here.
members and stuff. So who knows how backed up everything is? But yeah,
I
that'll be
gotta say,
coming soon.
Dunkelweizen is a pretty good name for a beer. Like I don't know what the we Hefeweizen obviously we know, but I don't know what Dunkel means. We'll have to, maybe someone out there who's listening can tweet at us or send us an email about the derivation of Dunkel. We could look it up. But I always like to hear from people who actually speak or read and write German. Maybe there's something interesting about that name. But that's a cool one to say, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. If anybody knows, hit us up with a tweet. But I guess it's time to get to the thick of the things. And this week, the main attraction of this episode is that we're finally finishing round one. It went way longer. I didn't think it was going to take this many episodes to get through everything, but lo and behold, we had lots to say about all these games, all these terrific RPGs. We've already lost a lot of good games, and we're going to be moving on with a very tough final five matchups. So we've got the Bioware, the best of Bioware. There's going to be two matchups for that. And then it's back over to the east for kind of I guess more of a strategy RPG matchup, and then some big square heavy hitters here we're gonna finish up on. And looking at the list, it's pretty hard to know what's going to happen with these five games. It's certainly not going to be as cut and dry as the West, I think, that one episode. But yeah, these are a lot of games that I've had a lot of fun with over the years.
I think it's easy to say that we've not that we purposely saved the best for last, but I think a lot of the games that we're going to talk about tonight, like these are games that could be people's absolute favorites, or games that I think we've maybe personally played through multiple times, even in this first matchup, Mass Effect 2 versus Knights of the Old Republic. I love both of those games. I like that we're kind of starting off with BioWare, who maybe a little bit of a fall from grace, but I know everyone still is hoping for BioWare to return to the form they had with the games that we're starting off with here. So yeah, a lot of matchups that are going to be toss-ups. We're ending with some absolute bangers, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's going to be another tough night ahead for us.
Yeah, so like you said, we'll start with Mass Effect 2 versus Knights of the Old Republic. So for these ones, basically, I guess we knew that we were going to take one of the Mass Effect games, and I think both of us and most people would agree that I think a lot of people just believe that the second one is probably the best of the three. I don't think the third one would get too many votes.
No, I think the camp is generally you like the first one better for maybe the story or the decision making, and I'm part of that camp. I think, although I love both games, I might say this. I think a lot of people say the second one's better for the gameplay, and especially the side missions in the second one are really, really spectacular. The way that they kind of get you to recruit different party members, and there's I think a major incentive for doing that, aside from just like kind of meeting them and doing their quests. But the loyalty missions of Mass Effect 2 really, really, I think, put it over the top over the first one. And I'm so excited to go back and play all three of these games, actually, when the Legendary Edition, I think, launches next month. I don't know if it's middle or end of the month, but it's coming soon. And I've already got that pre-order kind of paid off. It's only PS4 and Xbox One, I think, right now. But of course, it'll probably get some upgrades depending if you play it on the next gen or the now current gen hardware. So I can't wait to play this trilogy again. But the second one, I think it's the de facto choice here, and I have no problem with putting it ahead of the first one in the tournament.
Yeah, have they set a date for that?
I thought, maybe I'm crazy. I thought it was February. Maybe it's just Q1. I think it's supposed to be earlier this year, but if I'm able to put money down on it at EB Games, I can't think it's that far away. Usually they have some kind of date or at least like a window for it. So I'm just taking a pick here.
Looks like Q1, Q2, 20.
Yeah.
Spring 2021 is all they have so far. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I think that will look amazing on the PlayStation 5. So looking forward to that. And for Knights of the Old Republic, I think this is our only true CRPG in the top 32. And oh man, do I hold a lot of affinity for this one. I've skipped classes in university just to play this game. This is how big a game it was for me back in the day. I had it on I bought a laptop second year of university, and I specifically got like the best laptop I could get from Dell at the time. And man, did I put a couple hundred hours into this at least, because I played through this so many times. Oh man, it's such a good game. I mean, one of my favorite CRPGs, really. I've had a lot of fun with Wasteland in the Wasteland series, but Knights of the Old Republic is really what cemented it for me. I think if I remember at the time, I remember the first kind of style like that was the Command and Conquer, I guess, would be like not quite the same game, but I started from there, and then Knights of the Old Republic just blew my mind, especially with like the whole Star Wars, having the universe in there and having such a game that's steeped with the lore. And that was back in the days too. Like I really wasn't going online to read up on things, so the kind of big reveal, I guess, kind of blew my mind at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it wasn't
for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, like it wasn't it wasn't spoiled, and I mean, we're definitely in an age where most things get spoiled if you're not there day one. But yeah, I just man, I love that game. Incredible.
I think what really helped KOTOR be as popular as it was is that it was a really, really well-made Star Wars game, and we hadn't necessarily had a ton of those, right? That weren't just kind of like the really brutal action platformers on Super Nintendo or some of the arcade games, which were pretty fun, but maybe a little bit shorter. This was a really a massive Star Wars game it came out in kind of I think just after Episode 2. Attack of the Clones. So the Star Wars was coming back into popularity, and however you feel about the prequel films, like they were creating a new generation of people to be interested in Star Wars. So after Episode 1 and 2 came out, and before Episode 3, I think you get Knights of the Old Republic in 2003. 2003, just a couple years before Episode 3. Star Wars, toys are on the shelves. People are talking about these games again, not just ones who had affinity for the original trilogy. Like, so it's almost this reappearance of Star Wars, and Knights of the Old Republic comes out in the middle of it. It's not only it's really good, it's got a good story, it's got kind of that Bioware charm of decision making and choosing your own adventure in a way. But yeah, it did feel like you were playing a game in that Star Wars universe, and I think that those are things that really helped it. Even if I don't think it's aged particularly well, I think it's a kind of game that maybe would be really ripe for a remake. Mm-hmm. Did you ever play the sequel to KOTOR,
yes,
David?
I did.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but not. I don't know. I didn't enjoy the story as much as the first one.
Yeah, I've never played the sequel, so I can't really speak to it. But I think that's the general consensus, is that the first one's much stronger than the second one.
Yeah, they did remake it. I actually bought it. I don't think I ever played it. There's an iPad version of KOTOR.
That's right. Yeah,
and I don't know. It didn't gel for me. I think I played it for a few minutes and then couldn't believe I wasted my money on it. But and it's funny too, because it was around the same Jedi Academy had come out around the same time, and so you kind of had these two styles of games coming out for Star Wars. So yeah, like you said, with these prequels coming out, it was just like a big time for Star Wars. And
yeah. Before that, I played X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Like, I had a joystick. I played some of those kind of those space dogfighter games. Like, those were great. But that was like kind of when I first had a PC, and I never owned an Xbox. So I don't think I ever played much of KOTOR at launch. I would have played it later, probably still on a PC. Maybe through Steam is where I maybe would have played it through. But I think KOTOR is more difficult to kind of get into or have an affinity for if you didn't play it around launch. Wherever you did play it, I think if you didn't, maybe if you came to it first on iPad or later on PC, I think it's harder to have that affinity for it, or that really that enjoyment for it. Whereas with Mass Effect, maybe all of the Mass Effect games, but especially 2, I think you can still come back to that game later. Maybe if you played as part of the trilogy on PlayStation 2 or something like that, or PlayStation 3, I think it's easier to come back to that game after it launched. I don't think you had to play it exactly as part of the that launch period. I think I might have originally played Mass Effect 2 on Xbox 360 and then played it later on PlayStation 3 again, and still loved it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Like, there's a lot of similarities, I think, in the way that you can kind of build a team. Like, you develop, like, the relationships with certain characters depending on your actions and that sort of thing. So you got the similarities there. But I guess it's the gameplay that makes the Mass Effect more timeless, because like you said, like, it's just Knights of the Old Republic kind of looks old and kind of feels old, but the action combat that they actually, I guess, upgraded. I never actually played the first Mass Effect. But from what I've heard, Mass Effect 2 went to that new kind of like duck and cover combat system.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people generally like that better than, I think from what I could tell, the first Mass Effect had more kind of like planet exploring or that sort of thing, and was less focused on the combat. And then Mass Effect 2 kind of flip-flopped, where you have this, I remember people saying the combat was almost similar to like Gears of War, I guess, at the time, where it's kind of like you go up to, a barricade and you duck under and then you pop up and shoot and that sort of thing. So
yeah, I mean, it was a really I think it was an earlier game before cover shooting became, maybe it was in the middle of it becoming a bigger thing or a more popular thing. I don't know that it did it particularly well. But I still think for like an RPG with a story that good, I think that I did enjoy the gameplay of the second Mass Effect. The first one, if I'm remembering this correctly, it's been a long time since I replayed it, but I think the first one was closer to like a VAT system where you could kind of pause, choose, a few different actions, and then Shepard which is who's the main character, he or she would execute those actions based on kind of like what inputs you've put in. So a little, actually, the first Mass Effect in that way would be maybe a little bit similar to KOTOR, and then the move to an action system in Mass Effect 2, I think you would really appreciate that, David, because it's more run. You can make it more run and gun, or you maybe have a little bit more flexibility over what kind of character or play style you have in the second Mass Effect. So that flexibility, I think, was important for me. And kind of looking at these two games, I think KOTOR, you don't have necessarily as much flexibility. Believe me, you have a lot, but because it's not an action combat RPG, it's you do have to kind of like that turn-based style a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that I like about both games is the story feels very meaningful. Like, because you have that loyalty building or character like leaning towards. Like, I remember in KOTOR, like, if you were kind of like an evil killer, you build up like I think it's AK-47. I can't remember there's like the hunter killer droid. I remember like he was always good for like one-liners and stuff, and the affinity would go up, the crueler you were and that sort of thing. But then the stories,
HK-47.
HK-47, that's it. Yeah.
Close.
And so I just find like when you get to build those relationships, when you get to the ending and you have like where you find out the big reveal with the main character of KOTOR, and then to me, like, Mass Effect 2 has one of the best endings in any video games, really. Like, it was like a heart pace. Like, it was just, the heart was pumping and the palms are sweaty, and if you don't,
it feels like you earn it, right? It feels like you earn it, because whether you collect all of the companions and then do all of their loyalty missions, like you are rewarded for doing that. Like, whether they survive or die, it really is based on your choices in the game. And because you've developed like this bond with all of these characters, their survival matters to you. It feels meaningful. And I think that's what. Yeah, I think the ending, although KOTOR has an interesting ending as well, in the way that it's revelatory, or it's revealing of something. Whereas Mass Effect 2, I think it really, it has a lot more emotion, a lot more gravitas to it, because all of your actions in the game kind of come to a head in the final decision, or that final run to take out the Reapers, right? Like, it's both really good games. It's a tough matchup. It's another tough one.
I just remember the first time playing Mass Effect 2, and definitely not building up everyone, and being so sad when when they're giving their lives for the cause. I'm like, no.
Yeah. And you directly influence that. It's not a luck thing. It's not a skill thing. Like, you made a choice to, I'm not going to bond. I'm not going to do this character's loyalty mission. Who cares? Like, I want to see the end of the game. Well, now you're going to get a poorer ending for it. So yeah.
Although I guess to a certain extent it worked out well too, because I was definitely very motivated to play through a second time to build that up.
True. Yeah. Good point.
I guess in a certain way it kind of mimics the some of the more popular Japanese like games, with like Persona, where you're building up the relationships. You play through it, one time, and you obviously, don't figure it out. And you get some people and not others, and then it gives you that motivation to play the second time. So Mass Effect 2 always felt to me like it was obviously a Western RPG, but it always felt like it had like these Eastern influences on it that made it always interesting.
You could also be like, oh, I don't really like this character. Like, I don't like Jack. I don't like. I'm trying to. I'm gonna get confused with characters that are in 3 but not 2. Caden or Miranda. I'm just gonna shout out character names, and hopefully they're in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Miranda was. So
yeah, Garrus, Morden, like you have to do those missions because you love those characters, right? And I think the loyalty missions are actually some of the best, because they're really intimate between Shepard and that singular character. Like you do feel like and they often come at the end of them with one like really big decision to make, like whether to save or destroy a species, right? Like I think Morden's has to do. I'm really getting to detail here. We will do a designated Mass Effect trilogy episode sometime later this year, but I love Morden's, where I think it's about him whether to use the genophage virus or genophage technology to kind of keep one species down or to let them thrive, right? And there's just so many impactful, memorable decisions in that game. Like I'm probably going to lean that way, but I know that we've got so many listeners out there that I know love KOTOR and are going to vote that way too. So this is going to be super tight, I'm sure, at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But we better move on to the next Bioware matchup, which is the Battle of the Dragon Age. It's Origins versus Inquisition, because Dragon Age 2 is awful. And no one will convince me otherwise.
Yeah, there's a reason why Dragon Age 2 is not in this list or even close to it. That's right.
Yeah. So Dragon Age Origins, I remember from what I can remember that one. Oh, it's been so long. It's one of those games I'd love to replay again too. But I have a feeling that it'll feel like a PlayStation 3 game. But I just remember starting off and being initiated into the Grey Wardens, and then taking on the Blight, and then going through again another game where you build relationships with characters. I mean that was BioWare's big thing, I guess, is the going through that relationship building. Morgan and the elf guy was another one of my favorites, because I can't think of his name now.
Yeah, Morgan obviously stands out. Like, she was such a good character in that game. Some really interesting stuff you can do with her, kind of side stories as well, or if you focus on her as a character. I think it's worth mentioning the fact that it was 2009, I believe, was the release year of Origins, and then 2014 for Inquisition. Yep. And you had not only did you have Dragon Age 2 in the middle, you also had Dragon Age Awakening, which was kind of DLC,
DLC,
sort of for
yeah.
Dragon Age. Yeah, but sizable. I think it may have even released standalone, and then would be bundled in later with Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition. So you've got effectively like 3.5 Dragon Age games in a span of 5 years, which is incredibly impressive, given that at least 2 of them are very, very good, and we're talking about those today. But still, a lot of like kind of meaty, sizable RPGs put out by Bioware during this time period, and there probably is a Mass Effect, at least one Mass Effect in that period as well. So it's so funny to think about how prolific Bioware was, and their latest games, something like Anthem, Dragon Age 4, which seems to have been rebooted and delayed, and who knows when that's actually coming. We keep getting these cryptic teasers every year at the Game Awards, which do really nothing for anyone. It's frustrating, but Origins, fantastic game. It's a game that I wrote my master's thesis on. One of them, Mass Effect 1 and 2, were the other games included in that thesis. Yeah, I've funny enough, I hadn't been thinking about this part of the tournament, but I was watching Awesome Games Done Quick, a speedrunning event, which started a few days ago, and one of the games they were running was Dragon Age Origins, and I don't think I'd ever seen this game speedrun before, and I only watched like 10 or 15 minutes of it, but I think one difficulty of Dragon Age Origins is I don't know that it's aged all that well, actually. It looked very, very dated. And so that one might be one reason why people don't talk about it as much. We do have, the Mass Effect trilogy coming. These games are going to be, polished, up-res. They're going to look better. But I don't know if it's a huge... Maybe I'm a little surprised that they're not doing something similar with Dragon Age Origins, considering it seems to be have the same kind of fondness as the Mass Effect games, and would sorely benefit from some kind of facelift here. So just something I noticed when I was watching the beginning of this game is that, I remember loving the prologue and how you choose your race, you choose your character, your class, and that determines your starting area. Like, it's a really interesting beginning of the game, a beginning of an RPG where your first hours of the game are vastly different from maybe someone else who chooses a different path from you. So that's a really cool part of it.
Yeah, well, and one of the big draws for me with Origins was like the inventory system. Like, there was so much going on with that system, and it actually led to why I disliked Dragon Age 2 so much, is because I think what happened was they got a lot of feedback that the system was too unwieldy. Like, you spent a lot of time in the menus optimizing characters, and I mean, like, you could run... when you're running a few characters in your party and then you're upgrading all their different items all the time, like, I can understand why people were a little turned off by that, but I just felt like the pendulum went too far to the left or right or wherever away from that system. So you had like very bare bones system in Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition, I think, was basically like the balance between the two.
Yeah.
Kind of one of the reasons why I enjoyed that one a lot, because it still had that relationship system with the different characters that you could build up, the different relationships. I know, again, it's so funny to think, like, at the time I didn't really put it together, but there was such a big deal about like who you'd end up with in that game. And so like you had, I can't even remember his name, you had like the big bull, and then there was like the
I think his name is literally like Giant Bull, or might be just Bull, or something like that. It really is. So.
Yeah. And then there was the knight from the earlier character, the first
Cullen comes back. Yeah.
And and I enjoyed the story for that one too. Like, there's the basically there's like a tear in the sky, which is opening up, basically like the demons coming out of the portal, whatever. And then there's your character has the mark on their hand. That's, the whole point is basically to close the rift, I guess. And
that's what you do. You go to different areas in the game, and it's more of an open world style than maybe the first and certainly the second game was. The whole objective is that you're closing these rifts to prevent more demons from coming through, or Darkspawn, or whatever it is. One particular mission I remember is you go to like a French villa, and you're it's like a masquerade ball. Do you remember this mission, David, from Dragon Age Inquisition?
Vaguely.
Yeah, this was, I think it was one of the highlights of the game. It's a really cool story. I think it's kind of like a murder mystery type of scenario in the game, and a lot more focused on story and dialogue and characters than combat. I think that was one that really stood out to me, a memorable aspect of that game. I think what's not memorable about Inquisition is the open world is filled with kind of fetch quest type side objectives, and I think that's what really bogs it down, and would probably make me lean a little bit more to Origins. I think Dragon Age Inquisition was really ambitious, and I think another issue is that it kind of straddled the line of releasing for PS3, PS4, PC, Xbox 360, Xbox One. I think it was one of those games what it released kind of just at the cusp of a generation gap, or a generation leap, and that might have hamstrung it a little bit. It might have been trying to do too much, or trying to release on too many platforms might have maybe led to some development issues. But I remember it being just a very, very big game and a very ambitious one that I don't think hit all of its targets, even though I think the larger map and the kind of like going to different territories and solving problems there is pretty cool. And I do like some of the characters like Cassandra. I think it was there were a few more misses there than I would have liked from that game, and so I do hope that they remedy some of those in the next game whenever that comes.
Yeah, like I remember the thing that stood out to me for Inquisition was like they had like that home hub that you come back to, where you would kind of develop the relationships and then head out to the areas. And Origins, I could be wrong because it's been a long time since I played it, but I feel like in Origins you were just always on the move. I don't remember a home hub, because I remember like there's the first place you end up ends up getting destroyed by the Horde. Like you only have so much time that you can spend at the first village that you go to, and even you can feel the tension because like even the village knows like their time is short, that they're like they could see that the blight is bearing down on them. Yeah, I
think you have like a camp. And I don't know if the camp moves around with you, but the camp is basically just your party members, and you go there and you have interactions with them, which are interesting. Because I think it's a great cast. And I feel like Dragon Age Origins, there's more customization. I felt like your choices mattered a little bit more. There's one particular mission. You go to this small town or a house where a young child is possessed by a demon, and you have to go into the Fade, which is kind of this magical realm where demons are. I can't remember exactly what the Fade is, but it's something where magic is kind of reigning supreme, and if you're a wizard class, like you have a lot to do with the Fade. It might be where the mages get their power from, or something like that. But you go into this. You basically go into the Fade to try to cure or to convince the demon of this boy to leave, and it's a really, really engaging quest where you get this crazy decision at the end where I think some of the choices are like kill the demon, have sex with the demon, make a bargain with the demon, and one of the results is hopefully this isn't a spoiler for a 12-year-old game now, but one of the choices or one of the consequences I believe is you can tell the demon, okay, like you can have the demon, you can have the boy back in like 10 years, and so or you can still inhabit the boy, but try to maybe like not make it so obvious or something like that. Like there's some really cool decisions like that in this game that I think really made that one stick with me and made me want to write about it even when I was doing my master's. So yeah, really cool games. I think Dragon Age Origins hasn't aged as well as Inquisition, but I think Inquisition maybe made some of those open world flaws or open world mistakes that we don't like to see as much now. So again, another tough matchup here, because both games do some things really, really well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and basically echo that sentiment. Like, I mean, for me, Morgan might be the what tips the scales for me, because I just felt like Morgan was
such a good character.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, so it's tough, but. I guess we should move on. We're back over to the East. We got 3 more matchups in the East before we get to the big square matches. We will go with kind of the wild card, I would almost call it. We've got Fire Emblem Awakening versus Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. So these are a couple of popular 3DS games, I guess, is kind of their commonality there. Yeah, Fire Emblem's Awakening, it's one of those games, I haven't played it in a long time. I remember picking up the game, though, because I got it at a garage sale thinking, like,
nice.
I was probably one of those people who had played, didn't really know anything about Fire Emblem. I think this was my first Fire Emblem, actually.
Okay. Yep.
And I probably only picked it up because I had heard of it because of Super Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the same for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Because you saw Marth and Roy, I believe, in Smash Bros. Melee, and when you looked at like the trophies or the screen that tells you like what game they come from, it would just say Fire Emblem, or it might say like Japan, Fire Emblem Japan, or a year before you knew about any of those games. And yeah, so you had this was kind of the funny thing about Smash Bros. It introduced so many different series. It was really smart on Nintendo's part because it introduced all these new series to people that maybe had only played Mario or Zelda or Metroid or Kirby, and now you're realizing no, like Donkey Kong, Yoshi, Fire Emblem, F-Zero, these are all Earthbound. Like these are series that gained a lot of maybe notoriety or a lot of popularity based on being introduced to people through Smash Bros. So you make a really good point there. I think that's a huge part of Fire Emblem's popularity is these really cool characters in Smash Bros. Melee and onward that you had never seen before. Like, oh, I want to know where this knight is from, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think for me, like this was, I don't know why when was Chrome was in something other than Fire Emblem, wasn't? Trying to think of where, for some reason, when Chrome came into the game,
yeah,
I knew who it was, and I'm like, why would I have known that? I can't remember.
There's no way he's in Smash Bros. As well, is he?
I was
gonna say something like Tokyo Mirage Sessions or something like that, but
yeah, I don't know. I have to try to remember that, but
it could be that he's mentioned in another game or. I'm trying to think what the first Fire Emblem game that he came from. I'm pretty sure is Awakening. So he does look a lot like Marth, right? Like I think it might be like people would get confused. They play as Marth and who's from the very first Fire Emblem game, which we got in December, actually, finally on in the West. But yeah, it might just be a similarity there between those two characters.
Yeah, I was just thinking like maybe I got it thinking that it was Marth, and then I'm like, who's this Chrome guy?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's funny to play Awakening on the 3DS. I thought it was a pretty fun game. I don't think I beat it. I think I got about 3/4 of the way through, and
yeah.
I think the big thing for me was that it just didn't. I guess the combat kind of wore on me after a while. Like it.
Yeah.
Don't remember if it was a pretty long game from what I could recall, but.
It is, yeah, probably in the 15 to 20 hour range, which is long for a tactics game like that, right? Like I think that, especially you think about the gameplay being kind of so similar, like all of the combat, that turn-based strategy type combat, it's mission 1 and mission 20, it's the same kind of thing. Just maybe your character's a little bit stronger, the maps are a little bit different, but you're still moving people around a bigger map. And the problem with some of the Fire Emblem games, and not problem, but just maybe something that can wear on you, is that the maps get so large later on that you spend half of your time kind of just moving characters to get into position to attack rather than actually doing any actions. And so that can get a little bit frustrating. But I gotta say, Fire Emblem Awakening is one of my favorite games. It was definitely a top 3, top 5 game on 3DS for me. I'm thinking about doing a Timeless Games entry on it because I played the original. I had it on a 3DS cart when it first came out. This would have been a game like I was really, really looking forward to. I played Fire Emblem on GBA. I don't know that I played Shadow Dragon on DS. I might have skipped that, but there was just so much hype around Fire Emblem Awakening coming out. Like it felt like an event type game. Nintendo was maybe advertising it a lot. I knew friends were going to play that as well, and I was really interested in the new elements they were adding to the series with this game. The kind of base building, the relationships, the this kind of more social dynamic to the game I really liked. And so yeah, Fire Emblem Awakening is a really, really strong game for me. I'm looking forward to playing it again soon. Radiant Historia, though, I did play the DS version originally. I don't think I finished it though. it wasn't until Perfect Chronology came out that I did get a chance to finish. And that's a fantastic game as well, just because of its unique combat and the way that it kind of, it's right up there, I think, with Chrono Trigger in terms of how it uses time travel, not as a gimmick, but as a meaningful device.
No, I totally agree. I didn't even know it existed on DS when I picked up Perfect Chronology, and I don't know if I actually reviewed it myself for NWR, but I definitely played it. It's actually one of our early Mage episodes. A bunch of us played it together, and I blew my mind when we played it, because it was the battle. To me, the big thing was the battle system, like having that nine slots where the enemies could be, and then you're kind of pushing them around and pushing them into each other. I love games that have combat mechanics that make it very like there's a varied way that you can, like, no two battles could be the same, because like you might get, like in this case, there are some characters were bigger than others, or some were placed differently. There was a difference if they were in the front row or the back row. Then your own characters, they target certain ways and certain, and so like it allows you to play like you could be. It kept me engaged, because now it's not like, every time you hit a random encounter or something, you got to fight. It's not like this rush to get through it, because it's like, oh well, this is the same as the last 100 I did. You can have fun with it if you really get into it.
The Perfect Chronology also added a lot of like side content as well. Like there was entirely optional. I think there was this ship you could go to, and all these different like scenarios where you could go back in time and solve a small mission, get some items or get some gold or experience or something, and then go back to the main story. So it had a nice way of kind of like, if you want more content, it's there. If you want like little distractions from the main story for a little bit, you can do that. But yeah, just the maneuvering enemies and maneuvering your own characters in combat was really cool. It reminded me of something like Darkest Dungeon, even though the original Radiant story came out before that, I believe. But Darkest Dungeon, a game where your party is in a row of 4 and the enemies are in a row of 4, and the position of your characters determines what moves you can do. But you're constantly like hooking hooking enemies forward or pushing them back in order so that they're less effective. Like there's similar things happening in this game, and so it's kind of surprising that we don't see more games maybe take a risk with the combat like this. I think it's novel, it's fresh. We haven't seen a lot of it in the kind of JRPG turn-based genre. So this is tough, because I think these games are pretty different. It's going to really depend on probably whether you've played Radiant Historia, because that's a little bit more of a niche game. Even though it had 2 releases, Fire Emblem Awakening is like the game that kind of relaunched Fire Emblem in the West and really helped the series catch fire. And there's no way Fire Emblem would be as popular as it is today without Fire Emblem Awakening. Like hell, we have like a mobile game for Fire Emblem that pulls in tons of money. Three Houses did really well. There's probably going to be maybe a Fire Emblem Echoes type game this year, or maybe a remake of one of the GameCube games, or the GameCube game or the Wii game. But we're going to see a lot more Fire Emblem, whereas like games like Radiant Historia, I don't know that we're going to get a sequel to that. I think it's kind of like maybe a one and done thing with those. But yeah, definitely a cool combat system that is worth. It's almost worth playing the game for that alone.
Yeah, I don't understand why they haven't gone on with something. I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of what other games you could even kind of put in that same vein, but there's nothing too similar. I guess the 3x3 grid is really something for like a 2D game anyway, and you don't see as many these days.
Yeah, I reviewed a game recently called Eichenfell, and it's sort of similar to Radiant Historia in the way that it uses a grid-based combat system, and maybe that's we are going to see more of that in the future, but. Radiant Historia, a game developed and published by Atlas. You just think about how prolific Atlas was on DS and 3DS. Mm-hmm. It almost makes sense that they've got all these random RPGs that they just kind of spat out of the machine, and whether they hit or not, it didn't really matter. They'd probably be able to make back their money with a game like this. Just thinking about how big the install base is and how many Atlas fans are just going to buy every RPG they make. You can just put out tons of these games, and hopefully some of them hit, some of them don't. But I guess the problem with that is you've got so much production that even a really great game like this is just not necessarily going to find like a huge audience.
Yeah, well, the other thing that Radiant Historia has going for it, though, is Yoko Shimomura.
Yes, that's right. I totally forgot about that. There's a really good soundtrack on this game.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like if I'm playing a portable game, unless I have headphones, I'm probably not listening to the music necessarily. Like music for me is more of a console thing where I'm hearing it on my TV, right? Like I don't know if I'm alone in that way, but
no, I agree with you. There's few kind of like the 3DS, DS titles that utilize, like, the speaker wasn't great in them. The 3DS, it was decent in the 3DS, but yeah, it's certainly not like a turn up the jam sort of like. You're kind of relying on, like, if you got surround system on your TV, that's kind of where you're getting the best bang for your buck. But I don't know, Shimomura has if anyone is gonna get the best out of a small system like that, then it's definitely her.
I might be mistaken, but I wonder if there was an edition of the game Perfect Chronology that came with a soundtrack. I know it came with an art book. Maybe the launch edition or something like that. But I'm trying to see if one came with a CD or some kind of soundtrack feature built in. Maybe I'm wrong. But it seems like a game, like, if I had the soundtrack, I probably would have listened to it a bunch because it is a good one. But yeah. I think this is going to go to Fire Emblem, if not even considering the game's quality or content, just for recognition. Like, I don't think enough people, unfortunately, have played Radiant Historia, but they probably should. It's a good game.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I guess we should probably move on to the Square games now because they're the they're the big ones.
We gotta set a time limit because this could take all night.
Oh man, we'll have to keep it to 15 minutes or less, I think. But the first one we're going to start with is Dragon Quest XI versus Final Fantasy VII. So I guess the thought process here is we definitely were going to have the best what we thought was the best Dragon Quest game, and I think most of us here pretty much felt it was 11. Which is kind of interesting.
It's up there.
It's up there.
I mean, it's 11, it's 5, or it's 8. I think those are like the de facto choices, and I think the fact that 11 is kind of all over the place right now, right? I should say the definitive version, the Dragon Quest 11S, is on. It's on PS4. It's on Xbox. It's on Switch. I think it's on PC too. I might be wrong about that, but
I think
so many people are still playing this game, right? They either did play it or they're maybe playing it for the first time now on a different platform. And I think the fact that it's more top of mind makes more sense to put this one in here.
Yeah, and I don't think there'll ever be a consensus on what the best Final Fantasy game is, but it just felt very difficult not to have the original Final Fantasy VII in the top 32. Yeah. So, I mean, we could have, to me, like, this could have been 12 or... I know 10 has a lot of fans. I don't know if I'm necessarily on that boat.
9
4,
has
I think
fans
we might have,
too. 4.
I think we had 4 on there at one point, but I think this is a pretty good matchup between the two. They both have that kind of old school feel, obviously. Like Dragon Quest is, I don't think they're ever gonna leave that turn-based system.
No,
everyone's a fan of that. You don't fix what's not broke, and. Yeah, so I guess, like you said, you kind of have this new, it's on top of people's minds. Everyone enjoyed Dragon Quest XI. I thought it was really good. You still have that feature to play in the 2D, which I believe is how you ended up playing Dragon Quest XI.
I did. I mean, I'll still regret it, even though I think it was a fantastic game. I think the thing about Dragon Quest XI that makes it so good is that, there's two, you can play the whole game 3D or 2D, and they're very, very, very different experiences. But this is just like it's peak JRPG. Like, great story, great characters, a really interesting world. The towns they all feel unique. The combat is, that classic traditional turn based that we know and love from this series. And it's just got so much charm and heart to it. Like, I think about going back to this game all the time, and I know that's one of the things that I don't have time to go back to games, but if I did, I would definitely go back. And I haven't even done the post game to this one, and people are telling me there's some really, really great content in there, and I know Ben, I think Ben from the Cross Players we've had on a couple times, I think he is either going through the post game right now or went through it recently, and I he was telling me about how much he was enjoying this game. And yeah, I really, really want to play more Dragon Quest 11, but this
Long
just
game,
makes to me it's a super long game, and if you already put 40 or 50 hours in, it's hard to maybe commit another 20 or 15 or something. But I think this is still one of those the best games of the generation, certainly one of the best RPGs of the generation. And if you haven't played this game, you have to, because people are going to be talking about this one for a long time. Like, I don't know when we're going to get a Dragon Quest 12, or I imagine there's probably one in the works right now, but I think it's going to be incredibly hard to top what they were able to do in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough act to follow for sure. And it's funny you say one of the best games of the generation, because Final Fantasy VII was the best game of its generation at the time.
Yeah.
Such a huge impact. I mean, like you said, the Dragon Quest 11, obviously people have played it more recently. Now, the one thing that Final Fantasy VII has going for it is, first of all, you've got the remaster on Switch, which came out, I guess it was 2019, I guess, Like
2019, yeah.
Spring. So replayed it then, really enjoyed it. Then you got the remake, which obviously, it's a bit different, but it at least kind of puts those characters back into the mind. Then you got Sephiroth being added to Smash Brothers recently. So you kind of got all that added in, but... yeah, I guess that's the thing with like the original Final Fantasy VII. It's got that dated look to it, I guess, like the early polygonal graphics. But it's just got a story that people just keep coming back to. Like, it just seems like people don't get tired of it. It's
the gameplay's so solid. Like, it still holds up. I think anyone, even if you have never played that game, if you can go and play that game for the first time now, and you'll still really, really enjoy it. I think it holds up incredibly well. Maybe not visually as much, but I think the turn-based combat, the materia system is fantastic. The characters and that world is really interesting too.
Great
everything
music.
From an all-time soundtrack. Yeah. Like the fact that you can go to the Gold Saucer, you can just do all the mini games there, the Chocobo racing, like. It's a huge, huge world in that game, and when you get the methods or the ways to traverse it, it just feels so much bigger after that point. And I still love this game. Yeah, we played it when it came to Switch, that remaster, and I love the inclusion of 2 or 3 times speed. My favorite feature added to old games coming back in a modern way. Final Fantasy VII, that's an old timer. It's a not only just a great game, or maybe one of the best games on PlayStation, but the fact that it still holds up so well now, even after playing the remake, you still think like these games are so different. You could go back and play 7 and not feel like the remake has spoiled it or anything like that. So that's kind of a cool thing, like that a game can be remade and it doesn't hurt the old one at all. If anything, it helps to accentuate the things that are really good in the original game.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, if anyone who owns kind of like a Switch and a PlayStation, you could play the remake on PlayStation 4 and kind of have that be. It's funny that we were always talking about what Final Fantasy game is kind of like the game to get you into the franchise or whatever. And I think for a lot of young people who aren't into it, remake is going to be that gateway into the franchise. And it would be interesting to see like people who play remake and then go back and play Final Fantasy VII for the first time. And but there's like we've had people like even like Xander, who's not even really like he's not a self-proclaimed not an RPG fan, still was able to play through it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's got the kind of that universal way of it's easy enough that there's no complicated mechanics to get into it. Like you know what's happening. Like it's very easy to get into, but it allows you to master it to a certain degree. And there's so much hidden stuff, hidden characters, like memorable characters, like some of the more recognizable characters in video games, like.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't fall in love with someone like Barrett or Tifa or even Sid. So brash, but he's hilarious too when you get the airship.
Eris.
Yeah, there's something about Final Fantasy VII and comparing it to Dragon Quest XI. Like in a way, they're both very traditional RPGs, right? Like the experience points, gold, buying equipment to boost your characters, but things like the limit break and the materia system, I think, add a lot to Final Fantasy VII that. I hate. I don't even know. I'm not going to announce a side here. I can't. Like I just think that Final Fantasy VII does some really really cool things, but Dragon Quest XI is peak awesome traditional RPG, and both games have traditional elements. I got to stop here because I don't know where to go. Like I don't know how to say one is better than the other. They're both fantastic, stellar RPGs, and I'll be frank, I wouldn't shock me if either of these games won the whole thing. Nope. I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think they definitely have the potential. It's funny because Dragon Quest XI is obviously a modern game, but with the retro feel, and then you got Final Fantasy VII, that is like the retro game, the one that we all remember. So yeah, it's gonna be this one's gonna be tough. And it's like the next matchup we have here too. I'm like bitterly disappointed that one of these games is going to be taken out of the whole thing, because to me the next matchup between Nier Automata and Final Fantasy VII Remake, like if these games were in opposite conferences, this could be the finals. To me.
Yes, it could. I think one thing about this pairing that I really like is within the next 12 months, it's possible we're playing another game in this series, right?
Yeah.
Like we're going to be playing Nier Replicant in a few months. I think it's an end of April release date, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And then Remake Part 2 is probably somewhere in the 12 to 18 months away category, I would say. Like I don't think that's super conservative. Or I think very likely we're playing that game maybe beginning or middle of next year. But yeah, really, really good games. Really good kind of taking kind of action elements and adding them to something that was maybe a little bit more traditional. I don't know. I never played the original Nier. Like, it's my first time playing Nier with the Replicant version coming out. But we know that obviously Final Fantasy VII Remake was a huge departure from the original game.
Yeah, well, it's funny too. Like both of these franchises, like you said, we'll have these follow-up games coming soon. But then these are also franchises that are going to be around for a long time. So like you're going to have, like you said, we got Replica coming up. But I was actually just reading the other day that Yoko Taro was working on like two projects on top of Replicant.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually laughed at the one because apparently Yoko Taro had shown he had given a proposal to Yosuke Sato of Square Enix, and I guess he originally turned down the idea because it was he strongly never wanted to make whatever this game he pitched was. Like it was that repulsive to him. But apparently, like Taro had like beaten Sato down to the point where he's like, okay, let's do it. And then a year later, Sato had said, if I could quit this project, I would. So it's making me like, what is this game? But
that's a great anecdote. Yoko Taro, like he's one of those like really colorful characters in the industry, right? Like he's always wearing that kind of funny mask or ball on his head, like it's he's one of those characters where you really want to know what he's going to come up with next, because it's going to be eclectic and unique and different, and probably a really well made game, even if it's kind of off the wall crazy or it has ridiculous elements to it. It's going to be something that's really fun and kind of thought provoking to play. So I always excited to play what's next from him, and hopefully Square Enix keeps greenlighting his projects as difficult as that might be for them. But getting back to this matchup, it's really tough, I think, because I think we both came to Nier Automata a little bit after its launch. It came out during a really busy year, whereas Final Fantasy VII Remake was one we were really looking forward to. So I think we went into Remake with all these expectations, but I think we went into Nier Automata with maybe not so many expectations, and I think we were very pleasantly surprised by what we came away with there. Whereas Remake could have given us some mixed emotions or mixed reactions to it based on just our lofty expectations going in. So for me, or maybe for both of us, this is a matchup of what we expected from a game versus maybe what we were given.
Oh yeah, totally agree. It's definitely one where I'm glad we're having the conversation about it now, like well after the fact, because my feelings on Remake have evolved quite a bit from like that initial. Because the other thing with Remake is that when we've gone into it at length before, is like the way that Remake ends can certainly leave an odd taste in your mouth if you're one of those retro fans. But now later on, looking forward to what comes next. But I guess one of the big things that it comes down to is the battle mechanics have that similarity, but the Platinum action RPG, it has this weird fast, like it's got this speed where you could just full tilt go after people. You could set up these amazing combos. I wish I remembered the name of. There's this one Twitter feed that I saw where this person was playing Nier, and they were having like these 30 or 40 hit combos where they're like taking down a boss in like one combo, and it's just amazing to see like how like what you can do in the game. Like if you have the rhythm and you have like you get you do the right combinations, like how much carnage you can cause in that game. And the music was oddly beautiful. Like it's one of those ones where it's like it doesn't, like on paper, if like you tried to describe how the music plays or it's hard to, it's one of those like when you're in it, it just feels right. It feels so, right for the move, the atmosphere, and
if you're listening to that soundtrack, you're not picturing what Nier Automata is. Like if you've never played the game and you're just listening to the music, you're not picturing what the actual action and gameplay of Nier Automata is. But that said, when you're playing the game, the music does fit incredibly well. Mm-hmm. It's just perfect. It's so beautiful and so gorgeous, and that's one of those soundtracks you could just put on almost in any kind of mood. You're just going to be kind of feeling really tranquil, and it could be very thought-provoking type music. But I love that soundtrack so much, and I'm really excited to see what Nier Replicant soundtrack is like. Hopefully it's comparable to that one. I'd be thrilled. Yeah. I just saw speaking of Nier Automata, I just saw a cheat that was recently discovered for the game where I think you can skip like almost all the game by putting in this code really early on. Did you see that? Like, I love when and Yoko Taro had to like comment on like, it took people like 4 or 5 years to find this thing. Like, I love when a game has things like that and people just discover it. And I don't know, I'm sure there's more secrets to be found in a game like this, but there's just a kind of cool bit of topical news that I saw about the game recently.
Mm-hmm. And to boost the tires of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think one of the surprising things from there was just how much, I know what one of the concerns going in was like, how much personality can you give Cloud, because it didn't really feel like Cloud was like in the original Final Fantasy was that fleshed out, at least early on, because it was all going to be in Midgar. But I think Square did an incredible job on giving each character their own time in the spotlight and making them all interesting. Like, there was really no characters where I was, there was no throwaway characters. They all had their moments. They were wonderfully voice acted. I think they're very fleshed out. Like, the only weakness may have been Roche. But I think his weird attitude, like the eccentricities that he showed in that short amount of time, was interesting enough that I was like, I found the character funny. And I would say the fact that they didn't bring him back for the rest of the game was kind of a benefit, because it's like I got the exact amount of Roche I needed.
Yeah, that's right. And you say that, and you know it's going to be a huge part of the second part of this game, right? Like, it's gonna you're kind of jinxing it now. Yeah. I think the characters are great. I think I really fell for Barrett and Tifa in this game. Like, they weren't necessarily my favorite characters in the original, even if they are beloved. But in this game, like the voice acting was just nailed it with them. And it was so nice to spend a lot more time with them, or to have the story kind of revolve around those characters and Barrett's relationship with his daughter Marlene. Like, it was really nice. I think we can't overstate this enough, that Final Fantasy VII Remake was one of the best looking games on the PlayStation 4. Like, from the cutscenes to just the minute to minute gameplay, it is a stunning game visually. And not that Nier Automata isn't, but it's not anywhere. I don't think they're really as comparable in that presentation aspect. Like, an end of PS4 game versus a game that came to multiple platforms. Remake really squeezed everything it could out of PlayStation 4, and we know it did that because it doesn't necessarily work as well in the transition to PlayStation 5. So there's going to be maybe some kind of patch or a PS5 version of this game released that is tailor-made or takes advantage of that hardware. But yeah, Remake is just visually stunning, and I can't get over how blown away I was by certain scenes in that game. Just kind of watching them on my TV on my PS4 Pro was really awesome.
Yeah, I would kind of compare, like, I would say that Nier is kind of like an indie film, like a very beautifully artistically done indie film, whereas Final Fantasy VII Remake is like your big massive big budget like Hollywood blockbuster, like blow you out of your chair visuals. That's kind of how I think I would compare the two. I think that's fair. I think there's a simplicity to Nier's style that I really like. I think it works to put the focus on the gameplay a little bit more. There's the use of pastels and lights and colors in Nier that I really do like. You kind of get lost in that world, but the attention to detail and some of the vista shots from later in Final Fantasy Remake, when you're kind of scaling the tower, or you're kind of climbing over the destroyed Sector 8 or whatever sector of the slums gets destroyed, when you're kind of scaling that and you're looking out over the world. Those are just some masterful shots there. So you can't really beat that. Yeah, I remember taking screenshots of that, getting up there and looking down, and I was like, man, like you said, this is one of those games where if someone's like, tell me the game that will take the PS4 to its fullest, like that's going to be the example that we look back to and be like, this is peak PS4 graphics.
Yeah. And I'll say the same thing as I said with the previous matchup. I can't call it here. I don't know. I don't know which one I think is better. I don't know which one I want to advance. I think they're both fantastic in their own way. I think Nier. I think the themes of Nier are a little bit more interesting than those in Remake. But I think the way that they handled the change to the combat really surprised me. I liked it a lot. I was so worried it was going to be just like Final Fantasy 15, and thank goodness it wasn't. I think the implementation of an action and turn-based combat system is something that's probably going to set a precedent going forward. I think it was in the Discord channel you guys were talking about the new Legend of Heroes games that are being worked on by Falcom, and the way that they might take advantage of something similar to Remake's hybrid style. So I do want to see what developers kind of make of their own way of kind of combining those two combat systems. So another matchup that's probably too close to call, and you're going to ask me, you're asking me on Slack, like, okay, Jordan, you got to make a choice now. And I'll be like, I'll say one, and I probably won't be happy with it, but that's the way it's going to be in this tournament sometimes.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we probably know for sure is I think this game's probably going to go far.
I
when everyone gets
so.
out of it, yeah, I think it's going to go deep because, these are some of the. I think we played Nier this year, right? Early in the I feel like we played it not too long before.
We played it in 2020.
Yeah, I think
for sure.
I feel like it was February, and then we played Remake in April. So
right.
This is an incredible. Looking back at 2020 is still amazing to me to think of in 2020 we played Nier, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Trails of Cold Steel 3. I played Trails of Cold Steel 4.
Yakuza 0.
Man, did we have a good year last year.
Sorry, rest of the world suffering from pandemic. We had a good year of RPG playing, but I mean, that's one of the funny things, right? Is that, the way we kind of escape the pain or the trials of the world around us is through playing games like this. And it's really nice to be able to go back to these lengthy and well-known and well-respected RPGs and finally be able to sink our teeth into them. And it's kind of the funny thing about being a fan of RPGs is that because they're so long and you can only play so many, you're always going to have a backlog of really, really good games to go back to. You don't even really need to play mediocre or middling RPGs. Yeah. Because if you're spending 40 to 60 hours on each one of them, just to see them through or to maybe to unlock different endings, you're just going to amass this collection of fantastic titles from a few years back, and that's kind of what we've been doing here. So really fun to you're discovering Trails of Cold Steel, the original, but there's all these Yakuza games we want to go back and play, and then by the time we get through those, there's going to be Dragon Quest 12 and Remake Part 2 and Final Fantasy 16. So a bounty of wonderful RPGs is always awaiting us, it seems.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is even with all the RPGs that we play, there's still people. You ask people about their favorite game from consoles past, and you still hear names that you never even games you never even heard of. And then we go back and play them and we're like, wow, this is actually pretty good. So
good point.
That might be our 2021 this year, is finding a few gems.
I'm sure we're going to say the exact same thing next January. We're going to be like, look at all these great RPGs we played in 2021. It's going to be our frequent January refrain is us talking about all the great games that didn't necessarily come out in 2021, but that we played this year that were really, really fantastic. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we were just about almost at the 90-minute mark here, so this will do it for us. So that was the kind of end of all the round one matchups. So starting next week, in addition to talk about games we played over the holidays, we're also going to be starting with the round two matchup. So you can look forward to that. David will be posting on Twitter and on Patreon the kind of the matchups for you to vote on. So please, vote for the games you want to see go forward, and then we'll keep progressing with the tournament slowly but surely. Obviously, we want to thank everybody for listening. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please do. You can leave us a review or send us an email, david@thethirstymage.com. Let us know what you think of the show, games you want us to cover, any thoughts, questions, concerns, things about that. That'd be fantastic. As David mentioned earlier, you can catch our content in so many different places, from the Thirsty Mage Discord to the podcast that you're hearing right now, the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We've obviously the Thirsty Mage website, and then what is it? The newsreel? What's it called, David?
Oh, the Flipboard.
Something.
Flipboard, yeah. Magazine.
There you go. Got some really cool episodes coming up soon. We're going to do a dedicated Cyberpunk episode and Morales later in the month. Also Star Ocean. We're playing Star Ocean on Switch, so that's Star Ocean First Departure R. And if it's not on sale anymore, there's still I think there's a PSP version. You might be able to play it on a Vita or a PS3 as well. So Star Ocean First Departure, whatever version of the game you're playing, you can play along with us. And there's a Discord channel. You can come in and chat with us about that as well. I think that's only for patrons. Is that right, David? Or am I?
Yeah, I think that actually is. Yeah.
So if you become
the Patreon,
if you become a patron of the Mage, you can join us for our Star Ocean chat as we play through that game. I don't participate all that much in Discord, but that is one where I am trying to share some thoughts whenever I put a few hours into the game. But yeah, I think that'll do us for tonight. So hopefully you enjoyed kind of the final look at our opening round of the Thirsty Mage Battle Royale, trying to find the best RPG we can. People voting on Twitter, the social media there, and then on Patreon, and then David, Casey, and I putting in our votes too. But we will talk to you next week, everybody. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, David.
Nope.
Okay, fantastic. So everyone have a good night. Happy New Year. I guess first episode of 2021. We're allowed to say that now. So Happy New Year out there, and hopefully it's a good one for everybody. And we will talk to you again soon. Goodbye.
Bye.